Kung Fu Detective. Seriously, how did that not become a thing for 40 years until Detective D? Chu Liu-xiang was one of pulp mastermind Gu Long's greatest characters. I'll get to 11th Son Shao Si Yi soon. Gu Long made for numerous great adaptations, and the Chu Liu-xiang movies are among the best. Chu Liu-xiang, a hero in 13 movies and 9 TV series. 3 movies from the Shaws, actually 2-ish, which I'll get to later. He lives like Sonny Crockett on a boat with 3 beautiful assistants and seems to have no ties to the world, besides the 3 women and his friendship with the chilly assassin Zhong Yuan Yidian Hong. Director Chor Yuen never held back on the bizarre in his films, including lighting and camera angles in addition to the plot elements. So strap in and get ready for some kung fu fantasy sleuthing here. I would warn you about spoilers, but I've seen these movies multiple times and I still have trouble explaining what happens, so... Clans of Intrigue is the first in the Chu trilogy. Chu Liu-xiang has been framed for the murder of 3 clan leaders and sets out to clear his name. Chu has sympathetic allies in the Beggar clan's leader and a quirky artistic Shaolin monk played by Yue Hua. The story starts out in murky forests and a lengthy visit to Kufeng's gambling house, but an intrusive Highlander girl, presumably Tibetan or Hui, but definitely from some minority group, keeps interrupting Chu Liu-xiang's investigation. Chu eventually capitulates and lets the girl tag along, but he can't resist pranking her. At one point, just to freak her out, Chu and his fly girls stage a haunted cannibal feast in a cemetery. You know, just for a laugh. In the final act, all these people infiltrate the lair of the Shaolin monk's paramour and her female army. As it turns out, the monk is actually the daughter of an imperialist Japanese samurai who plans to rule China somehow, and they are using the deadly assassin, his paramour, and her assassin army to carry out their plans. One thing you have to say about Gu Long is that there are many colorful characters, but there are even more double crosses and backstabbings than there are colorful characters. In this case, somebody even gets backstabbed by a severed arm. The film's strength is that it takes all of this in deadly earnest. Ti Lung and Yue Hua are serious actors, seen here at the midpoint of their careers. For comparison, these guys are the age and career of Pacino in Scarface or De Niro in Taxi Driver. Overall, this is a way over-the-top film, which survives by taking its stakes, if not the sets and costuming, in deadly earnest. Shortly after, the Shaws put out Legend of the Bat. Master Sleuth Chu Liu-xiang is back, seeking the murderer of a group of kung fu masters. He and his enigmatic assassin buddy, Zhong Yuan Yidian Hong, follow a clue across the sea, but their boat sinks, and they're saved by a passing luxury liner. Weird things keep piling up. A net full of dead, nude beauties is fished out of the sea. The passengers are all poisoned with gas. Everybody on the boat has their own motives for going to Bat Island. And then finally, they arrive there via Cave River. At this point, it changes from Kung Fu Agatha Christie into Kung Fu Poseidon Adventure. Inside the cave, the little band of survivors work their way through many trap rooms, losing members one by one in dramatic scenes of noble self-sacrifice. The tension's pretty high, and it's as fun as it is suspenseful. The acting is strong. I mean, this film features not just Ti Lung, but Luo Meng's little brother, Qing Li, and Yue Hua, playing an entirely opposite role from the previous film. Here, a stalwart and loyal husband, much closer to the Yue Hua that we know from his earlier films. The little band eventually infiltrates a black market kung fu swap meet run by Derek Yee's blind kung fu master. Fighting erupts, the lights go out, and it's a pretty good final battle, if a little long. This is by far the best of these 3 films. The first was Crazy Camp, but this movie is genuinely good. The third one... Do you remember the 4th Pirates of the Caribbean movie, where they took the entertaining adventure novel on Stranger Tides, which they have the rights to, and shoehorned in Jack Sparrow and Captain Barbossa into a completely unrelated story, which was about a missionary falling in love with a mermaid. And they kept the title, but they had to change some names, and the final result was a mess. Well, Perils of the Sentimental Swordsman has a similar genesis, even if the final product is moderately better. The first 2 Chu Liu-xiang movies had done well, so a few years later they went back to the property and adapted a completely unrelated novel, still by Gu Long, changing the hero to Chu Liu-xiang. Even more confusingly, they title this Perils of the Sentimental Swordsman, although it's not part of the Sentimental Swordsman series, which also starred Ti Lung, but they based it on a novel about the Sentimental Swordsman, Lu Xiaofeng. They just changed his name and his personality so he'd fit into this movie. Chu Liu-xiang is a wandering gentleman with an iron fan who tries never to kill. Lu Xiaofeng pretends to be a drunken womanizer, but is actually a secret mastermind. I mean, it's just it's just not the same thing. I have to confess, I saw Perils of the Sentimental Swordsman 24 hours ago, and I still can't remember what this movie was about. Various people are vying to be leader of the martial arts world. There are a lot of heroes, there's a lot of villains, there's two hot chicks, one of whom plays a pointless game of strip poker with no nudity. Lo Lieh shows up in his comic mode and acts as Ti Lung's sidekick, a big swing from the taciturn assassin sidekick Zhong Yuan Yi Dian Hong from the first two movies, and much more appropriate for a Liu Xiaofeng movie than for a Chu Liu-xiang movie. I will say that Perils of the Sentimental Swordsman is a fun watch, the sort of thing I'd have on while I was doing the dishes, since missing out on the plot is not a big loss. And you can't go wrong with any Ti Lung film. Watch Clans of Intrigue for the crazy, Legend of the Bat for a top-notch adventure film, and Perils of the Sentimental Swordsman if you're an obsessive like me.